Hey, how's it going? Matilda B here, and today we are talking about the mental load, right? The 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 responsibilities that are on your plate but are invisible and you don't see them until they've eaten up your time. What are these? What does this look like? It's remembering to buy eggs, remembering to pull the meat out of the freezer, booking everyone's dental appointments, remembering who needs to see the dentist when, booking doctor's appointments, remembering to get people to the doctor, remembering the information that is filled on the forums at the doctor's office. It's helping with homework. It's responding to school communications. It's planning homeschool activities. What's your toddler going to spend the day doing? What's your toddler going to spend the week doing? What are the Halloween costumes for this year? Christmas dinners. Who's invited? What are we eating? What are we making? It's all those things. I just read an article that says the average person makes over 30,000 decisions a day, or is it a week? But that's 30,000 decisions. And think about how much time you spend deciding, right? Or remembering. How much time do you spend doing that? Okay. So mental load is this invisible thing that eats up your time. And it's all those things that are in your mind, the things that need to get done, right? And so when you get someone else to buy the eggs, right? You still actively said, may you please get eggs. So you've taken going to the grocery store to buy eggs off your list, but you still had to remember that the eggs are needed, and you probably have to follow up if they were picked up. Does that make sense? Now, somebody else, like I said, is buying the eggs, but you want to make sure that they were bought. It's project management. And if you were in a corporate environment, that's a job, a full-time job. But once we take things outside of the corporate environment and we bring them into the home, we no longer acknowledge just how much time, effort, energy these things take, and we don't we don't acknowledge them, right? And so you spend all this time doing all this work and you don't even realize that you're doing it. And it's a time and an energy sucker. And when somebody asks, what did you do today? You don't have an answer. Can you confidently respond by saying, I thought about buying eggs, or I planned to buy eggs? It doesn't really feel like you're doing a lot, but it actually takes your time. So that's what I'm talking about. And today I'm giving you a few tips on how to ease the burden of mental load, right? So the first thing is to acknowledge it. Acknowledge all the things that you're doing. See, I sat down about 3 years ago now, 4 years ago, and I took stock of my day, right? And my week and my month. I was at the point where I was like actively building my business, where I was like, okay, I'm committed. I want to start a business and I have no time in my day. So I sat down and I was like, wait, where is my time going? Right? So I sat down and I started identifying what was eating up my day. And you need to do the same thing for you. What is eating up your day? Is it meal planning? Is it constantly taking your kids to and from school? I have a friend who has 2 boys who are in sports. They're in high school, they're in sports. And so once the school year starts, once the activities start up, you know, and she knows that she's going to be in the car. Her whole day, her whole week is planned around her drive time because she's always in the car. So everything that she does has to be something she can do in the car, right? She takes her meetings while she's waiting for her kids. She's like, literally, she runs her business from her car because That's her life. So you need to acknowledge what is filling your day. What are you doing, right? What are those tasks that don't really count as tasks but are taking up your time? Is it homeschool planning? I'm a homeschool mom, and I never used to acknowledge exactly how much time I spend planning for homeschooling, the activities that we're going to do, the subjects that we're going to do, how we're going to approach subjects, even things like learning, not learning abilities, but rather learning styles, right? Having that time to sit down and say, hey, what is working? What is not? How can I better address this with my child? That takes time. But when you don't acknowledge that you're spending your time doing that, your day slips by, and then you get to the end of the day and you are exhausted and you have no idea what you did because you're not acknowledging the things you're actually doing, right? Is it the grocery shopping? Is it actually getting up and going to do groceries? What is filling your day? Acknowledge it. Acknowledge all the things that are filling your day, especially those hidden things like the thinking, like making sure that the bills are paid, thinking about the groceries, the meal planning, all those little things. Start acknowledging that they are in your day, and see what's going on, right? Now, the second thing that you want to do is to set up boundaries. Now, what I mean by this is that once you start seeing how full your day is, right? Once you start acknowledging that, hey, there are so many things in my day, especially these invisible things, and you start acknowledging them, you also start seeing that your day is actually full. Because once you acknowledge that actually homeschool planning takes me 2 hours a week, and you start setting up that 2 hours and acknowledging that for 2 hours, I do my planning on Sunday. So for 2 hours on a Sunday, I am doing my homeschool planning. And if I don't do that, it throws my whole week off. And then we have this horrible week that was like hamster wheel because we're all just, trotting in one spot and we don't know what's going on. So I have to take that time to do that. Once I acknowledge that, then I know that when people ask me for things and they're like, hey, can you do this? I'm like, no, I cannot, because my day is full. You start acknowledging, you start setting up boundaries on your time because you're acknowledging exactly what is full in your day. And the next thing that you might ask me is, oh, but then who is going to plan the soccer tournament if I don't do it, right? Who's going to do those things if I say no to all these extra things that happen, right? But what you need to understand is that, first of all, we don't all have the same passions, right? You have people who will organize you to death. They just love organizing. They just love putting all the things in the boxes and making it all look nice and neat and everything. And then you have me who's like, I have a junk drawer and nobody touch it. Nobody ask me. Just if it's in that drawer, don't question me, right? You have that. So you have people who will actively want to do that. That's what brings them joy. But if it's not what brings you joy, start acknowledging that this is not my strong suit. This is not my joy bucket. And so I will not say yes to this because this is not what brings me joy. Right? There are people who love that. And I have, like, this is what's actually going on in my life right now. I have a field trip that I want my kids to attend, and I am in several local homeschool field trip groups on Facebook. But nobody has organized this field trip that I want to go on. And so I have two choices. I am not generally passionate about organizing field trips, putting something together, like being the liaison and talking to the companies and saying, hey, can I bring a group of like 30 kids to come and like learn about what y'all do, and then organizing with the moms and saying, hey, can y'all, like, how many of like RSVP, how many of you are coming so that I can talk to, like, I don't like that. I don't like being that person, right? But I have a choice. I can say that I can put it up in the Facebook group to the people who are passionate, like the people who started these groups. They love that, right? They love doing all these field trips and all of that. It's their passion, it's their joy, it's their strong suit, it's their skill. They're good at that. So I can pop that in the group and say, hey, would you please run this field trip for us? And I will definitely attend because I want to. Or if that doesn't pan out, I can I can do it myself. I can be like, okay, I'm going to run this field trip and commit to doing it because I want my kids to have this experience, right? But at that time, if I do that, while this is not my passion, I am actively, intentionally putting it in my day because of the values and the commitments that I have made. This is an experience that I want my kids to have. I have committed to um, providing these experiences for my kids. That's a commitment that I've made to my children. That's a value of mine. When say my value is family, that's what falls in that bucket. So I can actively say, I will add this into my day and I will take on the headache of, going back and forth between the company and the moms and saying, hey, let's get together and let's get this thing done because I want that for my kids. At that point, I'm actually intentionally doing it, and it no longer becomes as exhausting as finding myself suddenly being the organizer of homeschool field trips. That would drive me up the wall. Does that make sense? So, yes, you start saying yes to the things you are intentional about. Maybe for you, it's making sure that soccer happens for your child. And so, yes, you will be the active soccer mom, right? Maybe for you, your child is in school and you want to be active. You want to have an active role in the decisions that happen in the school. So you will be on the school board or what is it, like the parents body? I don't even know what it's called. I'm sorry, but you get what I'm saying. You actively, intentionally start adding those things into your day. Start setting up boundaries on what goes into your day and what stays out of it. That's number 2. Number 3 is to delegate responsibility, not just tasks. What does this look like? As I started, I spoke about how you have to remember that we need eggs. And you may ask somebody else to pick up the eggs, but it's still on you to ask that person to pick up the egg up, and it might even be on you to put the eggs away once they get home. Does that make sense? That's delegating a task because you are still actively involved in that, in making sure that that task happens, right? When you delegate a responsibility, you no longer need to ask or remind somebody to do that, right? So, for example, picking up eggs. Hubs and I have an app. We're Apple users, so we have like the reminders app. You can share that. And so what we've done is we have a grocery list that we share. And every time I add something on the grocery list, it pops up on his phone. So when he goes to the store, he just checks the grocery list and he knows what we need at home. Same thing for me. If I'm at the grocery store, I can check the grocery list and I know what we need, right? But it goes a step further because we are sharing a grocery app, it means that I no longer have to actively ask him to pick something up, because if he's at the store, he has the grocery list and I don't have to actively say, hey, can you pick up eggs? I do it sometimes because maybe something pops up when he's at the store or something of that nature. But for the most part, I don't have to ask. It's already on the list, right? So if I'm in the kitchen and I'm using up the eggs and I realize that, oh, I only have 4 eggs left, or I only have enough eggs for the next meal, or we're out of eggs altogether, I can add it to the list. And I know that once I've added it to the list, whoever is going to the store next will know that eggs are needed and they will pick them up. But it also means that Hubs, if he's using the ketchup and he's using the last ketchup, or he realizes that, oh, this ketchup is not like this ketchup will not get us to the end of the week, he can also actively add things to the grocery list. So it's no longer on me to ask or remind someone to get that done. It's now on both of us, right? So in that sense, I have shared the responsibility of building the grocery list. If he's in the kitchen and something runs out, he can add it to the list. And because we've shared that grocery list, we both know what needs to be picked up when we get to the store. Also, you can take it a step further and share the menu, right? Hubs loves to cook. So that means that he can also add things to the menu and to the grocery list according to the things that he wants to make, so that when he is making things, he knows that we have all the ingredients for the things that he wants. Does that make sense? So that is a case of delegating responsibility versus delegating a task. When it comes to your kids, it takes a little longer because you're building a foundation, but you want to think of the long game. You want to think of you want to think of the long game, right? Like, you're raising adults and you want them to be able to do these things for themselves. So that might mean, instead of doing the laundry for your kids, it's starting to teach them, starting to build that system to say, hey, um, it's Tuesday, it's laundry day, right? When it's your 3-year-old, it might just mean that they have to put their things in they have to make sure that all the laundry is in the washing basket, because on Tuesday you're taking the clothes down, right? You're going to do the laundry. When you're a 5-year-old, they may be able to pull their washing basket down, right? It might mean structuring your house to a space where your kids can bring their laundry down, right? So yes, you may buy a fancy washing basket, or you may buy a functional washing basket, which your kids can actually carry to and fro, right? It's saying, it's teaching your kids to be like, oh, it's Tuesday, bring your laundry down, and then you run it. Oh, it's Tuesday, bring your laundry down and load the washing machine. Oh, it's Tuesday, do your laundry, right? So it takes a while to build it. But if you think of the long game, you're teaching them to make that decision for themselves. Because by the time they're 10, 11, 12, they start waking up and be like, oh, it's Tuesday, I got to do my laundry, right? So that is a case of delegating the responsibility, because you're moving from a place where you actively have to ask or remind someone to get it done, to a space where they can understand that this needs to get done at this time, and they can do it without you actively saying, hey, hey, hey. When they're kids, it takes a while to build that, because you're going to have to remind them, but you start reminding them less and less because it starts being inbuilt for them. So delegate responsibility more than tasks, right? That is number 3. Number 4 is take breaks. The thing with mental load is that it's in your head, right? A lot of these things are in your head. And so you are exhausted mentally, but your body is not necessarily as tired, right? But you need to take breaks. You need to acknowledge that you actually did a lot of things and take breaks. We just went through the challenge, the Make Time for Mama, right? Where I showed you how you can restructure your day so you actually have the space to take the breaks. So you want to take those breaks and recharge, reset yourself. Otherwise, you crash and the overwhelm sets in, and then you get burnt out. So take breaks. Number 5 is set up a home management system. Now, a home management system is a way for you to get around the mental tasks. Like, you get them down in paper. It becomes the difference between a recipe that you have in your head, right? You have a fancy chocolate cake that you make, and you've made it for so long that you know all the ingredients, all the steps, all the things, and you can do it, like off the bat, right? Somebody's just like, hey, can you make a chocolate cake? And you're like, sure. And you just pull out the ingredients and just do the whole thing, right? That's fine. But when you take it and you build a home management system, it becomes something that you can pass on, right? That way you actually, one, you're no longer thinking about this task of, what comes next? What needs to be done today? Did we pay all the bills? Where is that coat? Like, where did we store the winter coats? Which bag or which box or which what are they in the storeroom, in the storage container, in the garage, wherever? Like, where are the things? What are the things? Were the things done? You no longer have to think about those things because you've written them down. You have a space where you are tracking all those things, and they're no longer in your head. Does that make sense? Those are like the foundations of a home management system. It becomes like a recipe that gets handed down from generation to generation because great grandma wrote it down, which means that me, the great grandchild, can still be like, oh, I can make great grandma's recipe because she wrote it down. Does that make sense? So you want to set up a home management system which will which will systemize your tasks, and then you can get all those decisions, all those tasks, all those things laid out in a way that you can do them, follow them, not have to think about them. Um, and it eases that mental load. So those are all the things that I had to share with you today. That's it from me for today. Have a good one.